Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Kind of grungy today because it's house cleaning day, but I listen to YouTube videos in the background. And I listened to Triggernometry with a trans clinic whistleblower. And I'll provide the link below, but she talks about how it's basically an assembly line. And as soon as the kid says he or she feels dysphoric, the machine just starts grinding them up. And anybody who has any questions along the way is shut down because, well, the kid said he wanted it, so our job is to just grind the patient through this machine, and he or she comes out the other end, not he or she anymore. And the model is the abortion clinic, where from the minute that woman picks up the phone and calls, if she's even asking about it, the assumption is she needs the abortion. And everybody's job, every step along the way, is to get her onto the abortion table and the fetus into the biohazard. And nobody in any step of the way is supposed to be questioning that in any way. And I'll give you some examples of each step along the way, okay? When I was the Pennsylvania contact with Feminists for Life, a woman who had until recently been an abortion clinic escort called. She said that she had volunteered, and during the volunteer training, she was told that you must never let the women speak to the pro-lifers outside, and if the pro-lifers hand them anything, you have to take it away. And the woman asked, why? If this is all about her choice, shouldn't she be allowed to talk to anybody she wants to talk about? And shouldn't she be allowed to get any information that she wants to get so that it's truly her choice? And the volunteer coordinator said, well, this isn't actual information. It's misinformation. It's lies. It's just intended to confuse her. So you need to take it away. So the woman, I'll just call her Sarah. So Sarah said, okay, I'll take it away. So she wouldn't let the women she was escorting talk to the pro-lifers. Anything the pro-lifers handed them, she took away. Said, you shouldn't be looking at this. It's a bunch of lies. But she wanted to be the best possible choice guide that she could. So she went to the library to research these materials that were being handed out so that if the women were exposed to any of these lies and misinformation, that she could wisely counter it for them so that they wouldn't be confused. And she said, I went through it and everything that these pamphlets were saying was absolutely true. So the next week when she went back, she went to the volunteer coordinator and she explained this. She says, look, you told me that this is all lies, everything they're telling them is lies, but I've gone and looked it up in neutral third-party sources and all of this is true. And the volunteer said, well, they don't need to know that. Well, of course, at this point, the woman was totally disabused of the idea that this abortion clinic was about choice. They were depriving the women of information that the women might very well want. So she wound up becoming a pro-lifer. So that's showing, even starting with the person meeting the woman at her car and walking her into the clinic. That person's job is to prevent her from getting any information that might stop this conveyor belt, that might get that woman off the conveyor belt. You want her to get on and stay on that conveyor belt. The phone counselors are taught how to get the woman into the clinic. You verify over the phone that she's pregnant. You assure her that, and again, the lies, oh, we provide options counseling here. And they advertise, oh, options counseling, options counseling, options counseling. You want her to come in assuming that she's going to be getting other options, but then when the counselor gets her, the counselor is to make the assumption that the abortion decision has already been made, and your job as the counselor is to keep her from veering off in other directions that are considered extraneous because the decision was already made. So, and then of course, by the time the doctor sees her, she's already on the table. But every step of the way, it's your job that choice is presumed to be made when she picked up the phone, And every single person along the line, it is their job to make sure that she follows through on that choice that she made merely by picking up the telephone. And to give you an example of how firm this was, I went to a women's conference, and I wound up sitting at the lunch table with the head of the Harrisburg Planned Parenthood. And I explained how part of why I'd become a pro-life activist was how my babysitter had been treated by a Planned Parenthood, that she went in, she had questions about the baby, and they lied to her, to Sherry, my babysitter. Once the heart is beating, that's a baby, and an abortion is killing your baby. And she had asked about the baby, and they had lied and told her it was just like a blood clot, that there was no baby, and she only found out afterward. And the Planned Parenthood director kept trying to say, oh, we provide counseling, we provide counseling, we provide counseling. And when I pointed out that they weren't providing her with counseling, she finally snapped, if they don't already know they want an abortion, they have no business walking into a Planned Parenthood. Okay? So that is the assumption. If you pick up that phone, if you walk in that door, if you go on that website, the assumption is your mind is already 100% made up, and it's our job to keep any information away from you that might lead you in another direction. And that's what we're seeing at these gender clinics, that once that call's made, unless, I'll give them this. Supposedly, if at some point along the road the child says, no, I don't want this anymore, they are supposed to stop. I'm not sure that's true. I mean, the abortion lobby says if the woman changes her mind, they'll stop. But I've seen far too many examples of women changing their minds and being told it's too late. In fact, I'll bring up Douglas Carpin at a National Abortion Federation meeting that I listened to a tape of this meeting. He complained that the pro-lifers were stealing his second trimester and third trimester. He was doing them into the third trimester. His later abortion patients, because they would come in, they'd pay for their abortions, they'd get the laminaria put in to dilate the cervix, they'd go outside, and mind you, this is after the woman has raised all the money for this abortion, has traveled to this abortion clinic that's willing to do abortions at 20 weeks and later, which a lot of doctors aren't willing to do it. So she's gathered up the money, she's traveled, she's gone in, she's paid for it, she's actually started the procedure, but just going outside and talking a few minutes to a complete stranger, she's changing her mind and she wants to have her baby. And the pro-lifers would cover the medical expenses to take her to a doctor who would remove the laminaria and monitor her pregnancy so that she could hopefully have a healthy baby. And the response of the National Abortion Federation clinic members was not, well, obviously your counseling sucks if the women are changing their minds at that point. What they said he should do is make them sign a contract agreeing to go through the abortion even if they change their minds. And that way they can't demand a refund because they've signed a contract agreeing to go through with the abortion. Okay? That's how clear it is. You know, there's Carpin. He knows that these women have changed their minds. There was a young woman named Nicolette who came in and begged for him to remove the laminaria, and he said, nope, can't do it. And she went elsewhere, but he lied to her and said it would endanger her life to try to do this. So from the escorts, the people answering the phones, the counselors, everybody see it as their job to process you. And it's the same thing that we're seeing at the gender clinics. So I'm not picturing things changing no matter how many whistleblowers there are, because we have 50 years of lawsuits and whistleblowers and medical boards looking at these things and health departments looking at these things and catching this stuff happening, undercover stings, and nothing's changed. I don't think anything's going to change with these gender clinics either.